Let's do it. Hello and welcome back to another whiskey review with me, the Whiskey Novice. I hope you're all well. It's good to see you back again. This time we are continuing on our series of whiskies you can no longer buy on the shelf, or off the shelf, should I say. And this time we're looking at this fella, Dunvilles VR PX 10. Sounds like a Star Wars character. And before we continue and before we actually get to the point of why you can no longer buy this off the shelf, there's an elephant in the room regarding this whiskey. And before we continue, we need to address that. And to do so, you lucky people, we're going to have a brief history lesson, and it will be brief, believe me. So listen up, children. So, Dunvilles whiskey was an established distillery and went into liquidation. It was in Belfast, Northern Ireland, went into liquidation in 1936. Jump forward many years to Ecklandville, Newtonards, Northern Ireland, 2013. Ecklandville acquired the Dunvilles name and branding and sourced some whiskey and started to put out Dunvilles 10-year-old. So, the elephant I was talking about earlier on is this, and it is that this is not Ecklandville whiskey. It is sourced whiskey. Now, if questioned or asked, not questioned, there was no threats made, but the question was asked of Ecklandville, you know, were they sourcing? And of course they're sourcing because they only opened in 2013. This is a 10-year-old whiskey. The maths just don't add up. So they quite happily offer that they're sourcing. They do not offer up where they source from. Indeed, they don't have to, but I would suggest it's Cully whiskey. This is from Cully Distillery down there over the border in Dundalk, I think Cully's in. And the reason I suggest this is Cully whiskey is I've had other Cully whiskies and I know what they taste like. There's only 3 distilleries really in Ireland that they could have been sourcing from: Bushmills, Cully and Middleton, and I would suggest that this is probably Cully whiskey. So, that being said, I'm going to review this as Dunvilles whiskey. There's no point effing and hooing and who did what, and you know, we'll just say it's Dunvilles whiskey. It's Dunvilles 10-year-old single malt PX, was Pedro Jimenez finished. There you go. What else? Oh yes, why you can no longer buy this off the shelf. Well, you can no longer buy this off the shelf because it no longer exists, basically. Ecklandville, as I say, sourced their whiskey from wherever and they ran out, and that was that. I have asked the question if there's a future in Dunvilles 10-year-old. They now produce a 12-year-old, slightly rebranded, but the 10-year-old's gone. I've asked the question if there's a future for the 10-year-old when their own spirit starts to come about, and they don't know themselves. Ecklandville actually very kindly replied to me and said, no, we just don't know what the future for the 10-year-old is. They're focusing on the other Dunvilles products at the minute. The 12-year-old, there's a cask strength in the offing, I believe. So, as I say, for now we're just going to look at this as Dunvilles. This is simply what it is, and here is what it is. It is non-chill filtered, bottled at 46%. Is there colour added? They don't say there is, they don't say there isn't, but if there is, there isn't an awful lot, because there's quite a heavy sherry influence in this from the Pedro Jimenez. So, you know, if there's colour added to that, there's not an awful lot. What it also is quite viscous. It will, I mean, it really is clinging to the glass here. And, you know, there's a bit of quality in this whiskey, whoever has made it. So, on the nose, first thing I always get from this, and this is why I suggest it's Cooley whiskey, is because I get this and other Cooley whiskies I've had, is a floral hit. Now, if that floral hit was all there was to this whiskey, I don't think I would like it, because it's almost perfumed. There's something slightly off-putting for me as a whiskey. Maybe it's fine for other people. Just for me, I find that floral thing slightly off-putting. But the floral thing is far from being the only thing in there. That, just as I say, is something that hits me initially on the nose. There's fruit behind it, fresh fruit. The sherry influence is quite prominent. As I say, PX casks being used, so the floral thing still hangs around. I'm going to suggest it's like heather and lavender, that sort of thing, but as I say, it's just quite perfumed. But then, when you get behind that, it starts to become quite creamy whenever it's been given a moment in the glass. And it's actually, for a single malt, it's actually quite grain sweet, strangely. If you'd have told me this was a good maybe blended Irish whiskey, I would have said, yeah, I would agree, because there is almost a grain sweetness of it. Cereal, quite a strong cereal note of it, and orange peel. Go try it. I will add water, but before I do so, I'm going to try this in the palate. Salty delivery, not heavily salted, but slightly salty delivery. Cereal, again. Cardboard, strangely. Maybe slight hints of coffee, which I'm only picking up today. I don't have in my notes. There is an alcohol nip, but it's not overpowering. It's very easy, an easy sipper. More floral notes on the palate. Ginger, I would suggest, and even that going back to those floral notes like Parma violets. This small candy, small sweet. The finish is very long. This clings and goes on. As I say, there's a viscosity in this, and I mean, I'm sipping at this, and it's still clinging to the side of the glass. Not dry, but also not, you know, I would say it's long length, but medium, where it's not dry, but it's not sweet either. It's not juicy. Somewhere in the middle of that. Long ginger heat. And I'm going to get some water in it. Say 46%. No, I didn't get any water in it there. Bear with me. There we go. And it does break up. As I say, quite oily. When I say oily, I don't mean it's not prickly. It's just thick, viscous. So, with some water, more citrus. Whoa, sorry, still getting over the cold. Slightly more citrus, lime, orange, green apple, slight green apple. The palate, there's a slight metallic thing comes through with adding water. It becomes richer, and I found I mentioned cereal in the nose and in the palate before I added water, and when I added a touch of water, when I was taking my notes, I struggled and struggled. There was a note in here which I knew, but just could not put my finger on it, and I finally figured out what it is, and it's Farley's Rusks. Now, I don't know if you know what Farley's Rusks are, but they're finger food for babies, basically, baby toddlers, and they're suggest a malty kind of thing, but there's a cereal thing off them, and this is definitely it's here. Farley, I could get Farley's Rusks in this, and I loved it, and it got me thinking I'm going to buy Farley's Rusks and try them again. Finish softens, becomes slightly bitter, but not offensive to the palate. That's pretty much summing that up. I mean, that's what you're getting. That's what I'm getting on the nose, on the palate. Whoever makes this whiskey, it's quality. That's all I'll say. There's good quality whiskey in here. There's lots going on, lots of volume, lots of flavour. I would certainly highly recommend it. It's probably still available in the secondary market. I picked this up somewhere in the last year for £45, and it's now selling for twice that on the secondary market. Whether it's worth that or not, I will leave up to you. I certainly think it is quality whiskey, and so much so I would give it 8 out of 10. Good stuff. Now, I'm going to share the love again, because it's just the kind of guy I am. And this time I'm going to share the love with Chris. I'll stand back for this. Chris from Last Drop Reviews. Get a good look at that. Get a good mental image of it. Let it fix in your head. It's like something between Paul Hollywood and a South American wrestler. Chris is a great lad, great guy, very open, very funny, very generous. And if you would like to see any more of Chris, God forbid, you can check out his YouTube page. I'll leave a link down below. And that is pretty much it for this review. As I say, Dunvilles PX VR PX 10-year-old, no longer available off the shelf, but if you can get it, I would highly recommend it. And 8 out of 10, as I say. Here is to your good health. Thanks again for joining me. Cheers. Hey, thanks for watching my video. Please click and subscribe to be notified of further content.